You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means, first off, we're back in the studios here, so you guys get the music again on the live stream as well, which is fun. And of course, we're back to kick off our broadcast week here on the old OB, aka the Option Block. My name is Mark Longo from, of course, theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the network. Glad to be back from the southern studios. It was nice to get the heck out of Chicago, get the heck out of Illinois. I really haven't left for the better part of the last year and a half. It's my first flight since I do believe it was RMC of 2020, which was, I believe, late February, early March. So pretty much around a year and a half for not even hopping on a plane. So that was all sorts of fun. And, of course, going down to the area that is now the new hotspot of the Delta variant, which is Orlando. So that was all sorts of fun. But nonetheless, we had a good time out there. Glad to see all of you enjoyed. Y'all, of course, had all your on-demand stuff. We're back with all the live action throughout this week. Glad to see so many of you are enjoying the coolest secret club and options. A lot of you joined last week while we were traveling, getting in under the wire there for the July drawing for the second ever in history Options Insider Pro Trading Crate. I was going to announce the winner. We're going to have the drawing here on the show today, but we got delayed to high heaven. Didn't get in until crazy late last night. So we'll do it later this week. Maybe we'll do it on boot camp later this week, where we'll pick our winner. But of course, everyone who was there, I saw a few of you get in under the wire there at the end of July. I saw all of you who joined or who were active throughout the month of July on the pro side are eligible for that. We will have the drawing and announce the winner later this week. By the way, all thanks to all of you who were bombing me at the parks this weekend saying there's something wrong with vol views. Thank you. It was the middle of my ride of Space Mountain where I looked down and said, oh, there is an issue with that. So that's fixed now. Don't worry. If you want to go back, listen to vol views. If you missed that little gap in the middle, I think the editors, for whatever reason, didn't like the meatball. I don't know what was going on, but there was a whole chunk there missing. So that's fixed now. You can listen to that. And of course, if you just somehow didn't know what was going on, that will be reposted. Probably as we speak, you will see another one hit the feed that says repost. So that's fresh and clean and all sorts of issues. Sometimes when you travel, these things happen. Sometimes the upload gets corrupted, whatever the case may be. So that's all there now as well. You know what time it is, listeners. It's OB time, which means it is time to kick off our broadcast week. And there's only one way we like to do that around here. It is a name that 80s wrestlers entrance music game. A little bit of a timely one today. I won't say why because I might give a hint, but a timely one nonetheless. Here we go. Can you name this 80s wrestler from his entrance music?
Woo!
right. That's a fun one. I think it gives it away in the first 2 seconds. If you don't know it from that, you probably won't know it. This person actually trending today on Twitter, which is a weird one nonetheless. Let's go out now. He is the reigning defending champ of this game. He's also the person who requested it, and I do believe he is champing at the bit right now because I'm pretty sure he probably knows this one. If he doesn't, I'd be very surprised. So let's go out now to Uncle Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, A, welcome back to the program, and B, can you name that 80s wrestler, sir?
It's the theme music or the entrance music of the jet flying, limousine riding, kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing son of a gun, the nature boy Ric Flair. Woo!
Yeah, once you hear the woo, you kind of know what's going on. Apparently he just got released from WWE, which is crazy to think that the guy is, pushing 100 or whatever the hell he is, and he's still somehow actively signed to WWE. I don't think he's doing in-ring stuff. I think he's doing more of the manager / rapscallion thing, whatever the heck it is. But apparently getting released today. So trending on Twitter, it seemed like an auspicious time to have him. We got Mr. Unlimited in the chat saying the Rock Lobster should have gotten this one. Ric Flair is the other one he knows outside of Macho Man. Well, the Rock Lobster is not here. We are joined by the greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. Mr. Meatball, welcome back to the program. I got to imagine once you heard the woo, you knew who that was, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it as soon as, yes, that was an easy one.
And how are things in the land of the South, sir?
Rainy. We had a crazy storm yesterday. My family's still getting over what happened with the Cubs over the weekend. Just an all in all a rough couple of days here in the Sebastian household.
I saw quite a few people walking around the parks this weekend with Rizzo shirts and with, let's say, very sad faces. So, yeah, a bit of a Cubs apocalypse going on this week out here, where they decided to say, hey, all those players we had left from the World Series, let's just kick them all to the curb. So, Cubs fans not liking it as we head on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
And the music, of course, not playing ball with me after we do the wrestling thing. So we'll get that fixed for the next segment as we keep on rolling. You're listening after the fact. It won't sound any different to you, listeners. Coming into today's show, we are seeing a wee bit of green on the old screen. I say a wee bit because it really isn't a lot. We're seeing the S&P kind of playing the Goldilocks role today, up about 0.15%. The NASDAQ leading the charge again, as it is wont to do, up about 0.4%, and the Dow up about 0.1% to the upside. So, of course, all that means the market's usually taking a bit of a break on the vol side, but coming into today's show, we had the VIX cash getting a little bit of a lift, and it is continuing out there right now. It was at 1875 coming into the show. That was up about 1.5 points, and as of right now, it's up about 19.5. So getting a lot of juice back out here. That puts it up about another 0.75 of a point. So you're talking about 2.25 points from where it was this time on our last show. So that's a lot of juice to be getting squeezed back into the vol tube. VVIX also getting frothy yet again, back up to that level where, it behooves you to pay attention, aka 120. That puts it up, looks like about 7 points from our last show. Of course, the products that love to erode, like VXX, that had actually gotten back some of its juice as well. That was at a 30.25 coming into the start of the show, puts it up about 0.75 and actually up almost another point from there, up about 31 and change right now. So getting a little bit of vol back on the old screens. And since he didn't get a chance to guess Ric Flair first, we'll go out to the Meatball now, because there's a little bit of juice back in the vol tube today. Mr. Meatball, what's lighting up your tape? What the heck's going on out here in the vol front, sir?
Yeah, you should be concerned looking at this market. Month over month, we've got the S&P up really nicely. So since June 25th, the S&P closed then 4280. It's now trading above 4400. In that same period, we've seen the VIX go from about 16, below 16, all the way up to 19.5. So we've got a vol trending with the S&P. that to me is a sign this market is starting to get really nervous about something. I don't know what it is, but it's hard to look at what's going on and want to be fading a bunch of volatility today. There are some positives with everything going on with Square using a stock deal, but as a whole, this market looks really uncomfortable in its close right now.
Uncomfortable in its clothes. I like that. You know who's always comfortable in his clothes, though, because he buys them at Dollar General, and they're pretty swanky. He is the uncleest of Mikes. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what are your thoughts on this kind of weird day with the markets creeping higher and vol doing the same, sir?
Well, a couple things. Just to add to what Mark was saying, we made a push for all-time highs at about 3 a.m. or something like that overnight. We couldn't break through it on the S&P futures. So we did have that. And then since the cash markets opened today, of course, we're back to pretty much break even, quite honestly. I think we're up on the S&P roughly 5 points. And so we had the run up at just before the foreign markets or the European markets opened at like 2:30 in the morning Chicago time, and came down roughly 6 in the morning. We're channeling till about 2 hours ago, had a drop, and now we recovered from the drop an hour ago. So market's not doing the follow through that it needs to continue to make all-time highs. It didn't get it done. And so concern that I have right now is that I don't think there's a lot of reason to be buying bonds personally, or to have like a bond rally at this point. Full disclosure, I am short puts in government treasuries, but that's something that I've just been doing a lot of lately. But the rally that we're having today, I'm not seeing any news to really justify that came out today. So we have that, and sometimes there's a rush to safety before we have some type of a pullback. So I'll be honest, I'm a little bit concerned right now. Don't get me wrong, if we have a 40 or 50 point drop in the S&P, I would look to sell some very far out of the money put spreads most likely. But the things that are concerning me right now are the fact that we are having a rally in the bond market, the fact that we weren't able to follow through with the buyers today, and the fact that Sebastian scared me a little bit too. He's scaring me when we're doing the VIX and the market going the same way. So if anything, I mean, I'm not seeing a major drop in the market coming by any means. Well, let's be honest, I never do. But when you have those things, I always talk about how I'm long-term bullish, short-term cautious. I think now is the time to start looking to be a little bit cautious. Unless we can get a turnaround in today's market pretty quickly, there's really a lot of reasons to be concerned with where we are right now. And Mark's looking at the VIX going up higher with the market going higher. And I'm looking at the fact that we have rising treasuries right now. So that's what I'm looking at.
All right, let's see what the market is up to out there today. Listeners, let's kick it off out there in the land of the VIX. VIX is up quite a bit, but we're not seeing that commensurate explosion of paper that you might think given today's weird action. About 196,000 contracts on the tape. As of a few minutes ago, that ADV is still hovering around 460 or so out there. SPY at about 2.5 million. So you're starting to see a little bit more paper filter into the broad indices there. The ADV is about 4.1 million out there. So SPY is looking on track to beat that ADV. The S also looking pretty robust. 821,000 contracts on the tape as of right now. So that's a pretty impressive number out there for the S. The ADV is still holding firm, close to 1.4 million. So the S looking pretty robust out there as well. The Qs, 718,000. Their ADV is 1.35 million, so they're pretty much right around half of their ADV. The Qs are used to a day that ends in Y. We got some movement, so this is no big shakes to them. IWM, of course, the small caps out there, 302,000 contracts. Their ADV about 653, so they're on their way to perhaps hitting that as well. Moving on out to the single name land. That's where a lot of the weirdness, a lot of the action has been of late out here. Cost you, let's see, 218,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today. That gets you all the way to the land of the will they, won't they meme stock known as Ford. Let's see what Ford's up to today. Ford up a whopping 2 cents. Had a nice run earlier in the session. Looks like it got up north of the 14 handle again, up to about 14.30. Now kind of struggling to tread water. Easy for me to say. I did this. I am kind of jet lagged, listeners, in case you couldn't tell. So Ford struggling to tread water out here, but managing 218,000 contracts nonetheless. Is it a meme stock? I don't know. I put it out to you. Sometimes it seems like it is. Other times, not so much. Number 9, Baba, 228,000 contracts as well. Number 8, Pfizer, 254,000, just a tick over 250,000. Number 7, AMC, the memes, the reigning right now king of the memes, 336,000, probably has taken that title from GameStop now. Number 6, Square, 365,000 contracts. Number 5, NVIDIA, 392,000 contracts out there. So back to the chip madness. And then we've got number 4, NEO, 426,000 contracts out there. Number 3, I said number 3, the fruit company listeners. That's impressive because it takes a lot to topple them these days. They're kind of looking pretty anemic today. 715,000. That's roughly half of what they've been putting up this time of day of late. So decent numbers nonetheless, but for Apple, not so much. And it only translates into a number 3 spot here. Number 2, it's AMD, knocking down its symbol twin there, AMC. 812,000 contracts on the tape today for AMD. And number 1, you can probably guess it, it's Tesla, closing in on 1.2 million contracts. So Tesla putting a little bit of paper on the old tape today. Let's see where our friend Tesla is right now. Up nearly 30 points, right around 716 and change up there. It's about a 4.25% rally today. How high did it get today? Got up to, looks like about 726 or so. So that's a nice little run for Tesla as well, kind of coming off it a little bit now, but still up pretty firmly here on the day. And yes, it is that time of year, listeners. It is earnings season. Let's see what we've got in store for us this week. Still hot and heavy. If you like yourself some earnings season, they're coming at you this week. Not a ton on the tape today, but tomorrow we got Alibaba, we got BP, you got Under Armour, you got Lilly, you got Activision, Blizzard, and Lyft. Wednesday, you got GM, CVS, Roku, Uber, Marathon Oil, and Electronic Arts. A lot of gaming names popping off this week. Thursday, Moderna, back out to drugs and vaccine land, Viacom, Square, and Beyond Meat. And Friday, one of the kings of the online gaming scene, DraftKings. We've got some earnings season, and earnings move results reports for you. Hot off the presses right before showtime, listeners. We've got some here popping off here from last week as well. We didn't have a chance to get to here on the show. Let's see. Did we do let's do Ford really quickly because you guys love Ford. Ford is on the 28th after the bell. They're at 13.86 going into their announcement. They were pricing in 4.8%. They delivered 3.8%. So a little bit of a wah-wah for Ford. Of course, again, depends on your frame of reference. If you're holding it a little bit longer, a little bit different story. Facebook, they were on the 28th as well. 373.25 is where they were. They were pricing in 4.5%. They delivered 3.4%. So I'm starting to see that trend kick back in out there. PayPal, same day. 302 was where they were. They were pricing in 4.2%. They delivered 5.1%. So a little bit of outperformance there. Same deal with Qualcomm. 142.5 is where they were. They were pricing in 4.5%. They delivered 6. So a couple of names outperforming, but for the most part, not so much. I'm looking through the earnings move results that are popping off here. Not a lot that we've got. And before the bell today, it looks like it's heavier stuff tomorrow, unless you're really excited about race and some of the other names that are popping off before the bell today. Let's look really quickly here. You got Baba popping off tomorrow. Baba was at 195 and change as of this report. They were pricing in 620, and in the past, they're pricing in 843. And in the past, they moved 620. So a little bit of extra juice on the Baba tip. Again, everything Chinese is kind of up in arms these days. And, of course, they have been popping into our top 10 most actives a lot of late as well. So perhaps some of that extra juice is warranted. We shall see. Lilly on the 3rd before the bell. 243.5 is where they were as of this report. They were pricing in 835. In the past, they moved 709. So there you go. Activision, August 3rd as well, 83.62. They were pricing in 388. In the past, they've moved 386. So not a heck of a lot of wiggle room there. They're coming in exactly in line with previous straddles. Lyft, August 3rd, after the bell, 55 and about a third is where they were. They were pricing in 420. In the past, they moved 425. It's like people have seen this movie before or something. CVS on the 4th before the bell, 82 and about a third was where they were as of this report. They were pricing in 273. In the past, they moved 368. So again, they got the memo out in CVS. EA, Electronic Arts, they're on the 4th after the bell, right around 144 as of this report. They're pricing in about 690. In the past, they've moved 590. So extra juice on the gaming front. That's intriguing. Wouldn't expect that. Roku, they were a hot name for a while. Very volatile name for a while. Lately, not so much. 428.31, though. That's where they were as of this report. They were pricing in. They're pricing in $37 and about a half dollars. Listeners, in the past, they've moved $65.07. My goodness. So they have, I think, to put it mildly, come for this ball quite a bit. That is pretty impressively low, even for all of the names that we've seen squeeze. I'm going to have to look into Roku a little more after this show, see exactly how and why they've beaten this vol, because that is a lot of vol to take off the tape here, listener. Usually you see a few percent here, maybe 10, 15%. This one is cut almost in half. That's pretty aggressive. Uber, 43 and a half. They are popping off on the 4th after the bell. They're pricing in 304. In the past, they've moved 308. That's kind of more of what I expect, not this Volmageddon here in Roku. So that we need to pay attention to that one. Roku, of course, like we said, used to be very volatile. These days, clearly not so much. So it might be worth paying attention to. Moderna, another name a lot of people are paying attention to. They're on the 5th after the bell. 353.60 is where they were as of this report. They're pricing in $20 and a quarter. In the past, they've moved to 16 and about a half. So a lot more vol priced into Moderna. Kind of hard to argue that it isn't warranted given the headlines, what's going on with Delta. Do we need a booster? All these other things going on out there. Vaccine rates starting to tick up again. People getting vaccinated. So a lot of juice in them, our hills. Not surprising. Maybe they would put a little bit extra juice in there. And they're doing exactly that in Moderna. Let's go a couple more here. Let's go to Beyond here. They're on the 5th after the bell. 122.70 is where they were. They were pricing in $11.32. Get this, listeners. In the past, they've moved $20. So this one almost cut in half as well. Wow. They're taking a lot of blood out of that stone. So, we thought coming into this cycle, they had squeezed most of the blood out of these names. Apparently, we were wrong, at least when it comes to Roku and Beyond Meat. They had a lot more juice to squeeze out of them. Is that the right way to play it? I guess we shall find out, listeners, as we keep on rolling into our next segment. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
And after promising music for the live folks, I screwed it up somehow, listeners. I haven't been back in the studio in a week. I don't know what all these bells and whistles do. I got to remember what all these buttons do. So I'll figure it out later on here. So live folks, no music. After the fact, it's going to sound the same, so you won't notice anything. But nonetheless, let's keep on rolling right on into the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild, we get, dare I say it, whimsical, and we unleash the Eye of Sauron upon the world. I haven't even really had a chance to see what the hell we're looking at out here today. The kind of Eye of Sauron just kind of running on its own there in the background and popping off some fun things every now and then. Looks like we got a hot, fresh one right before the segment here. That's always fun. So let's kick it off. Where are we going today here? In this is like a newcomer. This is not a name we have discussed on the show before. This is Billy Inc., another ADR. I take 10 guesses where this one is based out of. Billy, ticker symbol Billy, B-I-L-I. This thing's having quite the day today, up 662 or about 7.75%. This is the name that, let's see, a year ago was trading about $46. So this thing has pretty much doubled almost exactly over the course of the past year. They kind of hung out there, $46, hung out in that low 40s range for most of the year until about mid-November. Then it started rolling. By December, it was in the 60s, 60 exactly, pretty much. And then by January 25th, it was trading 134.25. So it got a nice run. And then it kept rallying. By February, it got up to its 52-week high of 157.66. So it had a nice run there. And then it's kind of been a choppy path downward kind of ever since. Fits and starts. Seem like some folks try to prop it up, but it doesn't really last. And it kind of, the sell-off continues. And let's see, it got down to 87.5 in May. Then it kind of rallied back up to 126 in June, and then right back down again to where it is right now. It got down to 85 just on our last session. Like I said, popping again today, up another almost 8% on today. So this is, I think, spoiler alert, a volatile name, as most names related to China are these days. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found for us today. Oh, your compatriot, the Rock Lobster, would like this one, Mr. Meatball. This looks like it's a pretty sizable line in the sand put. In fact, this is probably one of the more sizable single name prints that are going up out there today. It looks like it's the weeklies expiring on the 13th. The AUG 70 puts going up 14,185 times for 18 cents. These things this is a great market. A dime at 54 cents, probably reflecting the fact that Billy, not exactly the most active of names out there on the options roster. But again, the dime at 54 cents, he puts one up for 18 cents. They actually got a little bit of a better price there than they may have expected. Let's see, what is the ADV out here in good old Billy? The ADV, actually a little more than you might expect, 22,000. So again, 14,000 is a lot no matter what your ADV is, but 22,000 is a little more than I was thinking out here. Let's see, that vol is about an 89%. So that is still a pretty hefty vol. So, Mr. Meatball, we're kicking it off the old-fashioned way here with a pretty aggressive line in the sand here. Well, not that aggressive, really. 22 handles, but a decent vol level nonetheless. Getting 18 cents, 14,185 times. What are your thoughts on this, shall we say, interesting and sizable line in the sand in everyone's favorite ADR, Billy Billy?
Yeah, this one actually popped up to me. I was a little surprised. Not a ton of premium for how expensive the stock is, but yeah, it's definitely appears to be a line in the sand type of trade. This is not one that I've seen a bunch either, but clearly someone wants to buy it for $70 if it gets there. I mean, I think I'd like to see them collect a little bit more primo than 18 cents. I just don't, I think there are better ways to do it. Go out a little further, collect a little more. Now, the stock has earnings after the bell tomorrow. So, I mean, I like I said, just go out and do more and get some more premium out of those. If you're going to go after earnings, why not go to regular August or September and get some real juice? So, no, I don't like it.
I had a feeling that low bit of premium would come across your radar. Go forth, son, and do more is your admonition to this folks. Well, we'll keep an eye on this one. We'll see how well he does. You only got a couple of weeks to wait. And like you said, tomorrow is earnings, so we might know more after tomorrow how much of that 18 cents he's actually keeping out there. Let's move on out to a lot of newcomers popping on our radar today. I always kind of like that. That shows you we're in a kind of weird time in the markets where weird little names are popping up with some interesting trades and or size. Moving out now to the financial realm. This is Truist Financial Corp, ticker symbol TFC, trading right now $54.33, off about, a tenth of a point out there. It's not a huge move for them today. This is just a bank holding company based out of Charlotte. And let's see, a year ago, they were trading a little bit south of where they are right now. They were trading 37.75 or so. So they've had a nice little pop, not quite 50%, but pretty close to it over the course of this past year. And then they kind of have slowly made their way up. They got up to $49 on November 10th, and they kind of hovered there for a while. Got up to close to where they are right now, about 52 back in January, and then they kind of gave it up back to 48. Then they rallied again in February up to 60. They got up as high as about 62 and change. And they kind of hovered in that 60 to 62 range for a while, all the way through to May expiration into June. They're still trading $60 into early June. Then they kind of gave it up by June 18th, trading $52 again. They've kind of been hovering around this level ever since. So it's been a good year for them, but not quite at the lofty highs that they were at even a month ago or so out there. So interesting stuff here in Truist Financial Corp. Let's see what our eye of Sauron. Again, it's another one coming in hot and heavy right as we're doing the show here. So let's see. Let's analyze it live together, listeners. These are looks like a little bit of longer term override here. We got the Jan 62 halves, which is a level, again, almost exactly the 52-week high. So you got to imagine whoever sold these probably looking at the same chart and saying, I'll let it go at those levels. Getting a buck for it, though. They sold 5,000 of the Jan 62 halves. So they're going out a little bit, obviously. But getting a buck for it, hitting the bid. They were actually surprisingly tight for a call in January on a name that isn't super liquid. They were a buck at $1.20. That's not terrible for this kind of market. And they were able to hit the bid and get 5,000 done. So that says something. The stock was pretty much right exactly where it is right now. About a 25.5 vol on this bad boy. And there are, of course, earnings between now and January expiration. The next announcement for this name is in October. So, Mr. Meatball, what are your thoughts on this? A little bit longer term call right here, getting a little bit more juice for it, and selling it pretty much at the 52-week high and getting about a 25 vol for it. What are your thoughts here on this upside call sale in everyone's favorite name, Truist Financial Corp?
Well, I don't know a lot about Truist, but I like the play. We're at a near high, and you're taking money and collecting premium. It's the type of strategy that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm on board with this as someone who's likely long, looking to collect some premium and or get out of the stock at highs. And that 25 vol is not terrible either.
Yeah, I don't hate this one either. We'll put us in our little bit longer term to be watched category and see how things fare here. But a decent level to get out of the stock, a decent amount of premium, decent vol. I can't really ask for much more on the covered call front. If you're tired of all this premium selling and you want a little bit of the old hardcore through the offer premium buy-in, we got one for you here. Going out to News Corp, the Class A, ticker symbol NUSA, NWSA, not NWO. Come on, don't get excited. Trading $24.84 right now. Nice little pop, nearly a full percent today, about 22 cents. On the year, they've had a decent year as well, up nearly 100%, about 91%. Let's see. They were trading exactly $13 a year ago. Kind of languished in that realm for quite a while until November. Then they started trending into the mid to high teens. Got up to $18 and change in December. Hovered there for a while. By February, they got into the 20s and rallied to $23.79. And then they kind of paused for a bit. Then they took off again in March up to their 52-week high of almost $28, $27.96. That was on March 19th. And they kind of bounced around in that range for a while, but trending lower, and then kind of trending back down to where we find ourselves right now, right around 24 and change in August. So a whole lot of excitement in the first half of the year, then kind of trending around these levels for the latter portion of the year. You might think that's a recipe for a nice premium sale, maybe to the upside like we just saw, but no, someone's coming in and saying, you know what? This thing is poised to move. It is poised to pop. I've got to get me some of that. We got someone coming in, gobbling up the AUG 25. So pretty much at the money calls, listeners, paying an impressive 92 cents. It's impressive because they were offered at 85. So they went through the offer by a nice 7 cents and change. You got these on splits, looks like. And they paid a 42 vol for these. And there are earnings this week. They are popping off on the 5th after the bell. So somebody had to get in there now before the earnings announcement on a name that's kind of been fairly sleepy for the better part of the last, at least 3 to 4 months. So someone banking that something's about to pop off here in News Corp Class A, Mr. Meatball, and they're paying a decent vol level to do it. What are your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, they're not messing around. They're buying these and paying up, and they're probably thinking that the price is right rather than the vol. So, which makes some sense to me, but still, it's definitely telling. These are definitely on my to be watched list.
Yeah, we'll know pretty quickly, certainly by the 5th, if not earlier, if these bad boys are going to come to fruition. We said it before. We'll say it again. When you buy in premium, especially like this, you're paying through offers, paying some fairly lofty vol levels. You need stuff to happen. You need it to happen pretty quickly. So we'll know pretty quickly whether this fellow or lady is on the right side of the trend. As we keep on rolling, it is Monday, listeners. It is time to unleash the wooiest of woo lovers. It is time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, I got distracted by our chat talking about 13-time champion Ric Flair. Is he only 13? I guess he was. I think who's got the most belts now? Is it, what is it, Cena? He just came back, right? He's probably got a bazillion. So maybe it's him. Let's go on out now to the unklest of Mike's. He's probably wearing his Ric Flair robe as we speak. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, first off, woo to you. And then B, what do you have in store for us while I try to figure out what's going on with our music, sir?
Well, hey, you may not like it, but you better learn to love it because it's the best thing going today. And you know what? I'm the man. And if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. So you got me all fired up on all my Ric Flair isms for today. But what I want to talk about today on the strategy block is what are some techniques you can use in the option trading realm to where if you are a little bit nervous about the current market, but you still don't want to change your overall sentiment. And that's something that I kind of identify with today just because of the fact that I have some concerns about what's happening in the marketplace. But my overall sentiment is that I am still bullish. I've said a trillion times on this show, I'm convinced I'm long-term bullish, short-term cautious. And so right now, some things that I don't really like to do in markets like this. If we are at a point to where, and by this, I'm talking about today, I don't like selling put spreads right now to where we're at all-time highs or close to all-time highs. And we're still technically positive on the day. I'm waiting for a pullback of probably around 1%, 1 to 2%, and a little bit more of a pop in volatility before I would consider selling a put spread at this stage. And the reason is that I don't like doing that unless conditions can warrant it. So in other words, the time with which I like to sell put spreads or puts or just short puts for that matter, if I'm looking to do this on non-levered individual stocks, would be when we have a dip in the market and volatility is higher. When that's the case, then you have the advantage or you have the ability to use the market conditions to your advantage and that volatility is higher. So you can either sell a strike price that you would want to normally sell for a higher amount of money, or you can take a safer position and get similar money to what you would have had. So in other words, let's say you were normally going to sell a 45 put. If you have a drop in the market along with an increase in implied volatility, then you can sell that same 45 put for a lot of times a larger amount of money than you normally would have. Or you have the other choice with which you can get the same amount of money for the 42 half put, the 40 put, whatever way you want to look at it, but you'll have it at a lower strike price, ultimately taking on less risk. In this type of market, that's not the condition. Right now, in this type of marketplace, stocks are going higher, volatility is going higher. And when looking at it, what if it continues to go? Well, if that's the case, then of course you want to be bullish and you want to be in some type of a bullish trade. Selling short puts, I don't think is the way to go in this specific instance. Like I said, if we get a 1 to 2% correction in the next couple of days, then I will be looking to sell some puts. But right now, what do we do if we're in a market to where we are fairly high and we could go higher, but we also are concerned of it potentially going lower? Well, I think the right thing to do in something like this would be to buy a vertical call spread out of the money. And the reason I like going out of the money is because of the fact that it's going to cost less. It costs less because of the fact that you're selling an option against the long option that you're buying. And if we do have a major pullback or even a 1 to 2% pullback, then you're not taking a lot of risk when it goes downward. Should we continue to go higher? Should we have a pop in the marketplace and we get a 1 to 200 point rally in the S&P over the course of the next few weeks? And yeah, you're going to be in great shape. You're going to get to be a part of it. And you get to watch the market continue to go higher, and you get to be a bull market genius. Now, of course, what's the risk to doing something like this? And that's time decay. That's something to where you have to be mindful of. You have to really take a look to determine at what point are you wrong from a time standpoint. Because if you try and hang on to it forever and it doesn't move for you, you don't get to hold on to long options forever, because there is no forever with long options, because forever for a long option is until expiration. And if you don't get the movement that you're looking for, you're going to lose. And so what I like to do in situations like this is, yes, I have the long call spread at this stage and it's out of the money, but there's ways with which you can still generate premium to try and finance it. Let's say we do have a big run up today. Well, I can sell a further out of the money call spread, creating a butterfly perhaps, or something even further out of the money, creating a bullish old school condor, I guess, or a bullish long condor, whatever you want to call that. I would have that ability to do if we did have a run up. Or I could actually close out the position for a little bit of a profit. So you have choices with this. The main thing that I really want to emphasize is that when we do have a run up in the marketplace and there's reasons to believe that we could be heading for a pullback, selling a short put is probably not the ideal situation or not the ideal strategy to do. Now, if you're doing wheel trades where you're going month in, month out, no matter what on a stock, that's one thing. It's still not ideal, but that's one thing. But if you are looking to still be bullish, but be a little bit more cautious in times like this, typically I like to be long premium. And if volatility is higher or closer to the 20 level, which is, I believe, is higher for my opinion of it right now, then I like being in a long vertical. And that is the strategy block, first one of August.
And that is going to be the music, because I fixed it in the interim. So here we go, a little bit of your mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, let's get some of you folks out here on the show. Let's start with all the crazies in the secret club here. Let's go to Alan. Alan says, "Welcome back, Mark. How was the House of Mouse? What was your favorite ride?" Well, the House of Mouse was good. A little crowded this time of year, and you may have heard some other stuff popping off down there, which is not so bueno at the end of the day. But we managed to have fun. You hear these horrible stories about how crowded, and it was crazy crowded. But if you know what you're doing, you can get some stuff down. We managed to ride just about everything down there, all of the premium stuff. We've ridden most of it before, pretty much. There were some new ones we haven't been there in nearly 2 years, so there were some new things that we hadn't had a chance to ride. If you got to say my favorite, I hesitate to even call it a ride. It's more of an experience. But if you haven't ridden Rise of the Resistance yet, it is an impressive technical spectacle. I mean, even if you're not the biggest Star Wars fan, you can't help but just be blown away by this thing. It's like a 20-odd minute experience. You go through multiple different phases. It starts off with holograms and animatronics, and you have real live, effectively actors coming in and shepherding you into a shuttle, and your shuttle's attacked, and there's more animatronics, then you're let go. You're just disgorged into the bowels of effectively like a Star Destroyer, and there's huge, it built a whole hangar bay for, your Death Star / Star Destroyer. There's huge ships flying by, tons of animatronic stormtroopers there. Then you're broken out of prison and you're on a ride and things are blasting in space and there's lightsabers and force and AT-ATs. You drive by AT-ATs. So, I mean, if you're at all even remotely intrigued by anything Star Wars, or just you like just an amazing ride, that is definitely the one I'd recommend. With caveat, though, that it's so popular, you still can't just go and get on it. You have to reserve it before effectively the park even opens. You have to get up like 7 a.m. to reserve it on the app. And even then, there's no guarantee you can get in. And then B, it is so technologically advanced. There's so many moving parts of this ride that it's probably going to break. In fact, it broke on us when we rode it, and then we had to get evacuated off of it. And then we went back to ride it again. So we actually rode it twice, and it was parts of it were still broken then. So if even a big, conglomerate like Disney can't keep this thing up and running all the time, that shows how just advanced it is. But if you can go ride it down there in the Disney, you got to be committed. You got to get up early. You got to fire up the app. It's a process. But if you want something that's going to justify your trip down there to the mad Delta variant land known as Orlando, the second behind it, I would say, would be the Flights of Passage for Avatar. It's just an amazing. If you haven't done anything like that, it's the most immersive kind of 3D thing you're ever going to experience. That's really pretty cool, too. So those are back-to-back. Of course, that one also has got about at least a 2-hour wait all the time under this very dark and hot mountain you have to wait. It's not exactly the best wait, so you got to really want it for that one, too. And unfortunately, there's no Fast Pass right now because that would be convenient, and why would they have that? But I could go on and on about all things Disney for a while here. Let's go on out to next one. This comes from Barrel Eye. This has been hanging out for a while. He wants to know, would you rather set up a time spread in a contango or a backwardation IV environment? Mr. Meatball, we'll go to you first. Or what are your thoughts on your favorite time spread setups, contango or backwards IV?
That's a good question. It really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If your goal is to kind of do it in the VIX itself, then those time spreads can really pay off when we're backward. But if you're thinking like regular bullish calendars, then generally speaking, you will want to set those up when we're in a contangoed environment. That's kind of because you're really hoping for volatility to kind of creep up, not blow higher. And when we're in backwardation, that's volatility blowing higher. And that means you're probably going to run into some gamma issues with your time spread. And so, yeah, that would be my answer.
Mr. Uncle Mike, I know you like an occasional diagonal or two. What are your thoughts here? Contango or backwardation for your vol when you're putting on ye old time spread, sir?
Well, to add to what Mark is saying, with the contango into the backwardation, you do want vol to creep up a little bit because let's just say in theory you're buying a longer term option, selling a shorter term option in the time spread, and then if all of a sudden you get a big move, let's say you're buying an out of the money put spread, and the market goes down super quick, and by doing that, you get vol coming up super quick. Well, the problem is going to be is that the short option is going to work against you way faster than what you would have liked. It's ultimately gamma versus theta whenever you're trying to do something like that. Good versus evil. You have like the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder, like in the cartoons. And then when, depending on if you're long or short, which one the angel or the devil is. But ultimately, if gamma helps that short put too much or hurts the short put too much, then you're ultimately going to not get what you wanted to accomplish out of the trade. So ultimately, you definitely want a shorter or a not so big move in volatility when doing something like that. And then to add what you were saying about Orlando, I remember the last time I was in Orlando, there's like a food truck area there where we went off and got some amazing, well-priced eats. It's probably one of the few well-priced things in the whole city of Orlando, but there was like a little carnival thing across the street from the food truck area. And there was a ride there that I'll never forget as long as I live. It was the greatest ride name I've ever seen in my life. I didn't go on it, but the name of the ride was the Vomitron. How can you not love a ride like that? So that was my highlight of Orlando and the best ride name that there actually was.
Leave it to Uncle Mike to go to the land of extremely expensive and just laboriously constructed, over the top, over engineered rides, and he goes to the Vomitron by the food trucks. That's the Uncle Mike experience in a nutshell. Here we've got Nichols popping in the chat. So sorry I'm late. What did I miss? Well, you missed pretty much the whole show, Nichols. So go check it out on demand. It should be available shortly as we keep on rolling around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, you know what time it is. Time to go around the block, see what we're keeping an eye on. There's a lot to keep an eye on here as we're bringing things to a close. Markets are kind of easing into the red a little bit. Dow is red, S&P flirting with it, and the NASDAQ giving up some of its gains. They're still up, but not up as much as it was there at the start of the show. And we've got VIX still hanging out right around that 19.5 level it was when we pretty much kicked off the show. So intriguing things afoot. The market's looking like it's telling us maybe some caution maybe in store for the next few sessions. Let's go on the horn. Let's go to Uncle Mike, he of the Vomitron fame. We might have to have a title for our show there. Something around the Vomitron. It's just too good. You're right. All right, Mr. Uncle Mike, wooing and vomiting as you were on the Vomitron. What are you keeping an eye on until our next show on Thursday?
I'm just hoping that the market makes me woo and not go and Vomitron and not Vomitron. So that's the hope for it. So watching to see if we do have a little bit of a pullback in the marketplace. 44.29, I believe, is the all-time high in the SPX. And so we're probably about 35 points below that right now. So seeing where we're at with it. So we're 1% below the all-time highs at this point in time. Seeing to where the movement takes us, and then continue to keep my eye on the 10-year in that I think it's moving up a little bit too fast. So seeing where we can go with that. And if we do all of a sudden have a sharp sell-off in the 10-year, as we did a few months ago, then I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see if we can get some movement in the market for the next leg up. But we'll see. I'm looking at the relationship between the treasuries as well as the SPX.
All right. And Mr. Meatball, I know you're keeping a firm glance on all things vol right now. What are you really drilling in on until our next show?
Yeah, this market looks like it wants to Vomitron, doesn't it? The way it's moving. We were up at 23 on the open. We're now flat. The Dow is flat. VIX is really bid. VVIX getting bid. VIX futures are flying. It's hard to look at this market and feel super confident. We do have non-farms coming up. We got ADP on Wednesday. We got lots of earnings. But I don't know, man. This market does not look like it's in a happy place right now.
No, it does not. But if you're listening, listeners, you'll be in a happy place. So we got more content coming at you in about exactly an hour. Looks like we're going to have a double dose of guests joining me on the Crypto Rundown. So that should be fun. Stay tuned for that if you're listening live. As you can tell, we have to rejigger a few things here in the studio. There's too many bells and whistles here. I got to figure out all these things and do again. It's been a little bit. So we'll be back in exactly an hour to bring you all the juice, all the action, all the volatility, the skew, the OI, all that good stuff, and a whole bunch more in the land of crypto. But before we go, let's go back around the horn. Let's go out to the wooer and vomiter in chief, Mr. Uncle Mike. Well, if folks want to contact you, maybe they have their own stories they want to regale you with about the Vomitron, sir. Where should they go? What should they do?
Follow me on Twitter at Mike Tusaw, TOSAW, or check out my website, stcharleswealth.com, if you're looking for a financial advisor who's willing to talk about options, as well as his all-time favorite carnival ride name, the Vomitron.
That is a pretty good one. I don't envy the guy who has to work on that. You have to have a big hose and like a hazmat suit, probably. It doesn't sound like a fun job. But check him out, stcharleswealth.com. Nonetheless, he can give you all the hot food truck tips down there in Orlando. As you're going out now, maybe you want to hit a food truck. Austin's probably got a food truck or two or somewhere in his neck of the woods. Mr. Meatball, sir, if folks want to hit you up, they want to check out what you're doing, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, well, you won't Vomitron at all the amazing VIX content we have at optionpit.com. So go to optionpit.com/VIX-edge and you can subscribe to get my vol letter the moment it comes out. The subscription button is right below that handsome picture of me. Go to optionpit.com/VIX-edge and get on our mailing list. And follow me on Twitter at OptionPit. I put the articles out after a little later in the day as well.
There you go, optionpit.com. They got all these crazy new products coming at you fast and furious. That's the place to go, optionpit.com, to learn more. And on behalf of the greasiest of meatballs and the wooer in chief, and indeed myself, thank all of you out there for downloading, streaming, and subscribing If you want some crypto action, you're listening live, just wait an hour. If you want to listen live, join us in the cool secret club there, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Member drawing for the July crate coming up here probably on Wednesday on Options Bootcamp. So stay tuned for that. And then, of course, check us out here. If you hit listen after the fact, just hit next for the Crypto Rundown. We'll be back next here on this show on Thursday. We'll see you then.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.